I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet.
Yeah, definitely. You guys are listening to Hope in a Different Dose. Welcome to the Moose Vu Sesh. I'm the Black Moose.
And I'm Vu, and we're giving hope in a different dose.
That's right. You guys need to hear that twice. So you can subscribe, like, and share. You can listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. And we have a guest, a good friend of ours, Jacson Davidson. How are you, man?
What up? Thanks for having me on board.
No problem.
Thanks for having a part of the show.
Welcome out to the sesh.
I've
Nice
known you, I think, since 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2011. You were chilling.
And 2010.
Yeah, that's right. We were at a Bible conference in 2011, and you had this crazy spiky hair. That was the fad.
Wow.
Man, that hair took me some time. I had to hang my head upside down sometimes.
Did you have to twist every strand and all that stuff?
What do you mean, Bar? What do you mean your hair was out there? Like a porcupine?
Yeah, that's right.
Looked like a porcupine? Looked like
It was supposed to be a Wolverine style of hairstyle. And it was more of the point just so people would ask me about it. Why do you have your hair like that?
Conversation starter.
Oh, wow.
You need those things.
And it was at a Christian get-together?
Yeah, it was at the Bible conference, I think.
Yeah.
I was like, 6 months, 8 months coming into the church world.
Yeah.
And so I loved my hair at that time.
Okay.
I don't miss it. I'll tell you that much.
We hit it off. I didn't have a job at the time. I went over his house, the boy's house, and it was just started writing rhymes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
That first song that we tried to rap that we didn't complete, Upgrade.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, and that's a really good song. We need to change that a little bit, but definitely, answer prayers on those things.
What about now? You guys still writing rhymes? And
We got
how
some
about you?
unfinished business that we need to.
Unfinished business.
Wow.
Some tracks that we're gonna drop down.
We should do we got to do an album.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm keen as. Keen as.
We'll call it Blackjacks.
Oh, Blackjacks.
Blackjacks.
Yeah, I
Oh,
seen that
okay.
photo you put up in my
Yeah.
last song.
Half and half, blackjack.
Yeah.
I get that. That's awesome. Anyway, man, being a rapper and that, or ex-rapper, were you into the music scene a lot?
100%. I think my first album.
Were you one of those doof guys? Or?
No, not at all. I actually hated techno music. Hated techno music when I was growing up. My first album was Seven Deadly Sins, Ice-T. And so
album.
don't look that up, children. You don't want to listen to that album.
No, you don't.
The other ones were like Kevin so-and-so Wilson. If you know his name, Kevin Bloody Wilson, I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
And so things that I grew up on or I heard from a very young age, you don't want to listen to now.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought there wasn't much swearing in it, and then I listened to it maybe like a few years ago, just thought, I just wonder what it actually sounded like. I'm like,
You opened a can of worms, man.
I just turned it off. So.
It's when you're growing up at that age, man, music influences your life.
Oh, it sure does.
A lot, And,
When I was in the Philippines, I was about 10 years old, I listened to the first Eminem track that I ever heard in my life, Purple Hills. Or Purple Pills, which is the uncensored version.
Yeah,
and I asked my mum, hey, can you buy me an Eminem album? He bought me an Eminem show. We're just rocking it out on the hi-fi stereo. Wow. My brother and I was 11 and younger brother was 9 years old. We're just rocking out to this like, this looks like you're jumping me. And then after, bleep, 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 bleep.
Wow.
Got a can of what?
and your mother didn't realize that. Or she was just like,
I think it clicked down to her, and then later down the track, I started to get a bit more angry than usual. Started to swear at my parents, and then she'd hide my CDs away.
So she knew the source of where it was all coming from. Right?
Yeah.
Was that a D12 album? I think it was D12.
No, the Eminem show.
Yeah.
No, that was Eminem. And then I bought D12,
Yeah.
bought 50 Cent and Tupac, and
crazy.
went down that
music.
rabbit hole of wanting to be a rapper, wanting to be a gangster.
That and Cypress Hill, I think I used to listen to as a young kid.
Wow.
You must
Soul
have been
Assassin.
insane.
Hill, man.
A
Insane in
little
the
bit of
membrane.
rock.
Insane in the membrane.
Yeah. Limp Bizkit with a bit of rap. That sort
Oh,
of
I
stuff.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was into all
Chocolate
that.
starfish.
I was young, dumb, man, and I just listened to whatever my brother would throw me, you know what I mean? And so, my mum was into country music and rock and roll dancing, so I'd go to classes with her and do things like that. But then, You know, all the music I listened to was rap and R&B, so I'd be sitting on the side watching with these kids trying to listen to rap music and stuff.
Have you
like
got
that.
into metal?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I had friends like at school that were long hair, and I really wasn't into that. My sister was a bit of a drummer.
I was a Metallica fan.
I was a Metallica fan.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I used to get into Slipknot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
That was
That's a
bad.
bit hardcore.
My sister was
Oh,
like
okay.
Slipknot, Silverchair, you know, Hanson, all that sort of stuff. But I was adamant of following rap, and I liked that music, and I liked the way it made me feel. And
Yeah.
so never thought I'd be a rapper.
Yeah.
Never ever thought I'd be one. You know.
So
I
how
would
old
act-
were you when you started listening to rap?
Oh man, I was probably like, from when I can actually remember listening to the albums with my brother, I was probably around 7, but probably earlier because he's, you know, his whole lifestyle, and it was a common music. So
What about you, Blake? How old were you when you started listening to rap? And
11. I wanted to be a rapper at 13.
wow.
Yeah, started writing like school diss raps at other people,
Yeah.
being bullied. I want to, you know, just writing stuff about bullies, talking about you're blankety blank this. So making a wall with my words, talking about relationships, talking about so high,
Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah,
tough that I am, but yeah, not really.
Yeah. So why I asked that is you know, I've heard a bit about your story.
Yeah.
And I know that you know you took quite a bit of drugs. You know, let's keep it. You know,
well, where's rap music leading
yeah,
to? Right?
yeah. Where was
Yeah.
did
had a lucky
the
dip.
rap music lead you to that kind of lifestyle of partying and going out there?
What was the
you know,
main?
getting
Yeah, what was
high
that
as a
main
kite?
factor?
Yeah.
I think for me, the drugs were a part of the party life and a part of the weekend scene. I didn't really know much other than partying. Like when my mum worked 3 jobs, my brother would always throw a party on a Friday, Saturday night, and we'll clean up on Sunday. And so very young, brothers and all his friends are into drugs. They would come over and bring booze galore, and they'd be doing drugs everywhere, mainly like marijuana and stuff like that. But drugs I got into because I started work when I was young, and I was doing like a tree lopping.
Yeah.
And on the weekend, on the Friday, when the weekend would come up, the boys would be like, "Oh, come to the pub with us," and I'm 14 years old.
Yeah.
And I'd go to the pub. Nobody would ask me for ID. You know,
So,
next minute I'm drinking, I'm ordering drinks for people, I'm shouting, I'm doing all this sort of stuff. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm 18,
Growing up
but
early, man.
I'm like
Yeah.
14 in a pub, you know,
Yeah.
in Epping or in Hurstville or wherever I was at the time, every Friday. You know what I mean? And so that started me off really early. And you know,
They just ask you, hey, you want to try this?
yeah, exactly.
Was
Eh,
marijuana the first thing that you tried?
Marijuana from a young age, because
How old?
I had,
How old?
oh man, I'm talking maybe I was exposed to being around marijuana. I didn't really understand what it was around 7 or so,
Yeah.
around the similar age from my own memory. But like 10,
10?
I think I tried a bong for the very first time and I greened out. I greened out. My brother was just like, well, from memory, my brother was just like, promise me you never do that again. I'm like, all right, no worries. And then, so weed was done for me.
Yeah.
I was never a continuous weed person.
Yeah.
Maybe like a joint at New Year's with my brother as a reminisce thing, you know, just to puff and pass it, and that was it. But the drugs that the guys were getting him into when I was tree lopping was like lines of speed,
Yeah.
and just hey, rub this on your gums. Didn't know what it was after a couple of drinks. I'm 14, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm starting to crave it. Where can I get
So
myself
you were
some?
exposed to all this when you were just hanging around older guys because you worked with older guys.
100%.
So they were your influences into that kind of realm, I guess, of drugs and partying.
Yeah, definitely. My family probably didn't know anything about me taking drugs until I was after I was 18. So 4 years of like going out partying, they just think I'm having a good time. You know, I'm coming home.
They weren't sus at all. Come on, man.
Nah, well,
Come on, man.
my mum worked 3 jobs, as I said before, and my father was never around. So there was no accountability for me.
Yeah.
I could do whatever I want, come home, go to sleep. I had 3 places to live, so I could either live at my dad's or stay at my dad's on a Friday night or a Saturday night, stay at my brother's, who was 5 years older, or stay at my mum's. So there was never like, oh, I have to go home and be responsible.
Okay.
My mum's not asking me to be home at a certain time. I'm either tell her I'm at my brother's or I'm at my dad's.
Aside from that, did you have any other repercussions? Any hangovers?
Man, I was
Any form of regret?
aching jaws, like, you know, headaches, and how do I like overcome this? And so I had, you know, I wouldn't say it's a good thing, but I had a drug mentor who would tell me to calm down, to not take certain stuff, to make sure I ate, to make sure I drink, to do all this sort of stuff, drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Not supposed to mix it with alcohol, but I drank like lots of alcohol.
Drug mentor.
Yeah. That's why I said it's not a good thing, but I felt like I had, you know, my brother and his friends that were into, you know, drugs at that time, would always talk about stuff. And because I'm 5 years younger, I'm like, I'm listening. Yeah. I'm like, what are they saying? Oh, what do you mean by that?
And you're just catching a sponge.
Yeah, and whatever their mistakes were, I'd try my hardest not to do them. Try my hardest not to go down that route. But I was going down the rabbit hole first, you know, and I was digging myself deep. You know, I was falling asleep at work where, you know, they had to call the ambulance or something like that.
There is. Wow.
And they called the ambulance and they're like, oh, what happened to you? I said, oh, man, I just fell asleep. I haven't slept for a night. Are you on drugs or something like that through work? And I was like, no.
Deny.
I was
Deny everything.
Deny. I was playing PlayStation for 2 days straight.
Yeah. Look at my thumbs.
That's the excuse now.
You know, Grand Theft Auto came out and I was just trying to clock it, you know. And so, you know, some stuff like that was like almost like losing my job or losing my job because I didn't rock up to work the next day because I was too far gone.
Yep.
Or the drugs made me think I was okay and I rocked up to work and everybody was like, man, you reek. You reek like the bar that you were at last night. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm fine.
Deny.
Bit of deodorant and I'm off, you know? It was very early age for me.
Yeah.
And the more people they introduced me to, the more I went into it. So it was only like taking it to now holding it and then getting my mates to try it.
So it felt like you'd grown up fast, but
I grew up way too fast.
Yeah, you didn't like it.
Yeah, I grew up way faster than I expected.
Yep.
I had, you know, I left school 13 and my friends were still at school. They'll come over to my house, they'll, you know, be smoking weed, they'll be drinking beers, you know, I'd share them some of the things that I had. Yeah. And I was influencing them all by the things that I had.
So you became the local school dealer?
Yeah, pretty much.
We all got one of them at school.
Yeah, I was the local hoodlum where people come over your house.
Yeah.
I think, you know, the cool thing about it is that my mum never like shied away from having us at home. So, you know, my friends were always allowed over, but it's in the garage. Whatever you're doing, it's in the garage.
Yeah,
you know.
So she kind of turned a blind eye. She kind of, I sense that, you know, I reckon she would have known. All mothers know what's going on. But
man, my mum's not silly.
Yeah, so she's kind of just, all right, I'm working so hard, but at least he's at home.
Definitely.
At least I know where he is.
Yeah.
And for me, that meant that I didn't have to spend, like, you know, I wasn't at the local canteen hiding at the school or, you know, doing drugs on the streets. I was in my own backyard where I could go to bed after, or I could have, you know, stay up and play games until, you know, that's all I knew.
So you were taking drugs safely, as long as she knew, you know. Where you
and that's not justification, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. This is not like go do drugs, get a drug mentor, and play PlayStation.
It's like the thought of those ice houses. Have you heard of that?
Trap houses.
Yeah, there's trap houses.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, you know, it's very sad. Well, you know, but yeah, you know, I used to own a few, so you know, it's sad. So yeah, in my
they're
past
horrible
life,
places.
Yeah,
horrible places.
So yeah, man. You know, your brother was a big influence. Your mum turning a blind eye to things. So man, growing up, man, you were absolutely just out of control, right?
100%. I don't think my mum turned a blind eye. I think she was just too busy working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And couldn't do much. But because I wasn't coming home from the police all the time, you know what I mean? It's not as bad as getting arrested every 5 minutes and struggling through some stuff as some of my nephews are like now.
Yeah.
So it was more, it was more along that line. I was definitely off the leash. Yeah. I had no boundaries. I could do whatever I wanted. Well, I thought I could do whatever I wanted. And I tried to sneakily do a lot of things all the time, you know, so I would even take my mum's car when, you know, she was asleep, push it up the driveway.
Done that before.
Jump start it down the street, go take my friends for a cruise,
Sorry,
go
Mum.
pick up drugs, go do all this thing, park it back in the driveway, sneak into bed like it was nothing there.
The engine's still warm at 7 a.m.
100%. It's just like, why's my petrol tank empty? And it wasn't until I was like 21, 22 that she's like, I knew you took my car.
Yeah.
I just, she just hoped that I would come home safe every night. And I think that's, I came home and Mum providing that safe place where I could come home made it easy. Made it easy to just come home and not feel.
So looking back now at your at the past of who you were and that, and did you look at yourself and go, man, I could have changed this about myself, or I could have, or do you have no regrets whatsoever of having that?
Oh, I have plenty of regrets. Plenty of regrets. I have regrets, that you could...
Waking up somewhere that you shouldn't be. I've
Yeah.
done that a few
Or
times.
burning a bridge that you shouldn't have burned.
Or waking up and, in a perspex room with iron bars everywhere.
Yeah, I think some of the ones would be like me influencing people to take drugs.
Yeah.
Because I seen it later. I didn't see it then. And at that time, I would never regret anything I did.
Yeah.
I would never admit to that.
So you're talking about like your friends and that now.
100%.
That you've introduced them to these drugs and that, and now they're off the chain. They're
Yeah, 100%. More closely to home, though, for me, was influencing my family.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I turned my life around that I was able to, when I seen that repercussion, I was like, oh man, that's where it hurt. But that's where it hurts.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't too phased.
Yeah.
I did a lot of things wrong. I wish I didn't do a lot of things in the scheme of drugs as well. Like I started young.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to I knew that there was something more to life.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And so I just took every day as it
Yeah.
came. So every day that came forth, I was just like, man, all right, we're going out this weekend. Yeah, let's go out. Have you ever tried this? No, I'll try it once. If I don't like it, I'm not going to do it again. And so, there was a couple of times I tried horse tranquilizer. I was like, the gate rep drug, all these sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I started to get into pills a little bit.
Yeah.
And then that was like the steamroll effect that every step that I went, and if you know me and as you know me now, I'm a full-on person. I can't just do things at half notch.
Yeah.
I'm everything and then some.
Yeah.
And so people couldn't really handle that a lot of the time. So I didn't keep a lot of friends either. So, you know what I mean? My friends were associated with drugs.
Yeah.
It was like, I know you because of this. I know you because of that. And I met you through so-and-so because of those drugs. Not that I have any of them now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
saying that you don't have any of them now is, now that you're a Christian, how long have you been Christian for?
June 19th, 2010. So 10 years.
10
Like
years,
4
man.
days ago.
Yeah.
It's like
Congrats.
pretty much.
Crazy.
Blake, how long have you been?
11, I
Christian
think.
now?
5th of October 2009.
Wow.
So yeah,
man.
a bit over 10.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy change and transition.
Yeah. Do you think the drugs that you took back in the days in your younger years and that, do you think it's had an effect on you now as an adult, as a person that's
Definitely. I think it made me a little bit streetwise.
Yeah.
In the sense that I learnt at a younger age rather than learnt when I was older and got into drugs.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends that I had at the time would only start to take drugs when they were older, when they were 20, 21.
Yeah.
By then I was already kind of over it.
Yeah.
By then I was going through stuff,
Yeah.
And so I don't see that effect as much now that I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Because God took that away from me.
Yeah.
Drugs lead you into paranoia,
Yeah.
loneliness.
Yeah.
You're watching over your shoulder all the time. You're trying to figure out who you are. You know that you're doing wrong, but then you go and do it again, and there's no escaping it.
Yeah,
So-
just these deadly emotions.
Yeah. So when you're taking drugs and that, man, like for me personally, I was trying to fill a void. I spent 2 decades in prison. I got out and I was just trying to fill this void where, I didn't know what to do with myself because I had no friends. I had barely any family around me, and you know, I was just trying to feed these emotions, you know, that I didn't have, like love. You know, I didn't feel loved. So that's why part of the reason why I took a lot of drugs. You know, well, was that the same with you?
Oh, very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. I was, I guess I grew up in a Kiwi culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I grew up in a Maori family where there was abuse to it. All my cousins did some sort of drug, whether in Australia or in New Zealand. And so from a very young age, seeing that, I didn't know much else. And, you know, growing up, I try to avoid that culture. I
Yeah.
try to avoid, you know, having that persona, but I was putting that on. You know what I mean? I was trying to be somebody I really wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was trying to be somebody better, to make a name for myself, you know, to my friends, I was one person. I was JD. I was JD Wild. Everybody knew me.
Yeah.
You know, I was the life of the party.
Yeah.
But at home, I was, you know, I was struggling to figure out what life was about.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, oh, what is my purpose and why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You know, I always worked a job. That's something my parents always worked. You know, that was easy for me.
Yeah.
Work a job, but I had a second life.
Yeah.
And so when I became a Christian and I started to share my story,
Yeah.
and I would tell my family things, they were like, that wasn't you. That's not you. And I was like, yeah, because I used to live a double life.
Yeah.
I'd be nice, sensitive kid, loved my family, loved my nieces, my nephews, my cousins, and all these sort of things. But deep down, I was missing. I was missing something. I knew it. From the younger days of like 16, 17, going out to Meridian in Hurstville and going to a club and them not even asking me for ID.
Yeah.
And, you know, time after time looking at empty bottles on the table being like, man, that's my life.
Yeah.
I just got to fill it up. And I just keep buying another drink and I'll buy another drink and I'll put some more drugs. And so definitely I was feeling a void that I didn't know was there.
Yeah.
But once I realized it, once I heard the gospel for the very first time, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's what I was missing.
Take us to that in detail. Like from being a man, trying to fill a void with drugs and all these things. What was the experience? What the message that you heard? What was the message that you were hearing? What did you feel the time, you know, when you gave your life to Jesus?
Yeah, so in reference to the emptiness, I was going through a bit of a hard time with broken relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
And so that obviously leads to drugs and more alcohol, right? And I was drinking myself to the point where I was drinking 2 liters of wild turkey a day. And, you know, I'd go home.
Because of that breakup, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Because of multiple breakups.
Yeah, okay.
Because of my own mistakes, though, right? So this is me being a womanizer and everything that I was,
Yeah.
you know, chasing the dream of having, you know, lots of girls and being a player and all this sort of stuff. I was hurting so many people, not knowing that I was hurting myself at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Hurt people, yeah.
That's
So some way I was desperate for love.
Yeah.
Desperate for love. Desperate to try and have a good relationship, but every single one broke down.
Failed.
Failed. Big time.
Miserably.
Polygamy fails, everyone.
Then you go and take more drugs.
You know, to the point that, you know,
It's crazy. It's crazy.
100%.
Man. Crazy.
Filling it with girls, drugs, and alcohol. And that was my thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, I had a friend, Dan, that I would go to hang out with at the Star City Casino or do a couple things like that.
Yeah.
Little did I know that he was an ex-Christian or he was backslidden and away from God kind of thing.
Okay.
And so long story short, he started going to a church, and he took me to this event at a PCYC from a strongman show, and this guy preached my life. He said, you know, I've got this thing. I know this person that could take away your sins, that could take away your fear of looking over your shoulder, your emptiness.
Yeah.
And he referred to that empty glass situation.
Yeah.
And he says, do you feel empty? Have you ever felt emptiness inside? And I could remember to a club, you know, a couple of weeks before, you know, I was looking at the bottom of my bottle and I was like, man, this is emptiness and this is my life. And the only thing I keep doing is just filling it back up and buying more drinks.
Yeah.
And he says, you can be set free from that. You can be set free from, you know, all your sin and everything else that I was going through, you know, all the hype of being somebody else. And you could have forgiveness. And I was like, man, I've tried everything.
Yeah.
I've tried every drug
Yeah.
that I could think of, things that had heroin in them, but I never did needles and stuff like that. But I tried everything.
Yeah.
And the way that he presented the gospel and said that I could be set free, I was like, man, something like inside of me was like, this guy just spoke my life. He just spoke all my understanding. And I was like, man, I was being fake. And he spoke, and when he presented the gospel, he was like, Jesus can forgive you, and gave me the opportunity to pray a simple prayer. And, you know, I didn't know what I was praying at the time, but the guy that led me in a prayer allowed me to speak to God. And I was like, he goes, just talk to God and ask God for forgiveness. And I said, God, are you there?
Yeah.
And if you're there, I want to know who you are.
Yeah.
And I just thank you for forgiving me. And right at that moment, it was like God spoke to me and he says, no longer Jacson, no longer do you have to live that way. But if you trust in me and trust in my word, I'll keep you safe. And it was like that void was filled instantly. And I started to get tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
And started to cry, but it was like pretty instant.
Yeah.
I walked away from that night at the PCYC thinking, you know, I'm going to a strongman show.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody's coming up to me and congratulating me on, you know, a good decision. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know? And so at that moment, I knew that Jesus Christ could turn me around.
Yeah.
And it was only a small desire, it was a small change in my heart. But the following day I went to church and it got bigger. And the emotions and the weight off my shoulder, I never even had to look back. I haven't done drugs since June 19th, 2010, the day before that I go to the PCYC.
What a testimony.
So how many years you been sober now? 10 years?
10 years. 10 years.
It's a joy,
and no turning back, no temptation. You know, it was like I was set free instantly and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I have a tattoo on my wrist and it's written always. And that was in representation that I'd always be drinking and always been doing drugs.
Yeah.
And now it's like I'm always sober and I'm always living clean. And you know what I mean? I can't remove the tattoo. I'm glad it wasn't something else.
Yeah.
I was glad it wasn't something else, but I felt changed. And the more and more I went to church, I mean, you know, for months and even up to the time that I met Blake.
Yeah.
Even to today, every time I go to church, I feel enlightened. I feel refreshed. I feel changed.
Yeah.
I feel that there's other people at church that are like going through what I'm going through. And I'm just a part of the boat.
It's like church is your drug of choice now.
100%. Getting high on life.
Oh, yeah, that's it, man.
It was a thing for me that I didn't know what life was about other than drugs and alcohol and party.
Yeah. It's a small bubble way. It's just
100%.
It's just so tiny until, you know, you realize when you know, when God lifts those scales off your eyes and, you know, bang, everything's like from, man, black and white TV, analog to high definition digital, man. You know,
I was super surprised at the people.
Yeah.
The people I met, Blake. And, you know, I think something that like, you know, my first few weeks in church, I was listening to stuff and I'm like, oh man, they all listen to worship music. Yeah. Listen to like some Casting Crown and stuff. And I wasn't really interested.
Yeah.
And then I heard some Lecrae and Tadashi and some rap. And I was like, man, these Christians get down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
That's what got me as well.
I was like, wow, these guys are speaking like what I'm going through. And I was just like, and then that's kind of locked me in. It was definitely music that assisted and I could relate to.
Yeah, still that old garbage that you used to listen to.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would trade those albums for some Lecrae old school, you know?
Yeah. Essentially, you are what you listen to.
That's exactly right, man. And, you know, we see this a lot, you know. You know, you guys heard my story. You know, I listened to Tupac and Biggie, and what happened to me was, 20 years in prison. Man, that's no joke.
Almost dead.
Yeah, you know, shot in the head.
Yeah.
You know, still surviving. You know, why? Because of rap music, man. It's poison, man.
It's crazy.
All that. Yeah, and to see what it's doing to a lot of the youth today with, you know, I love rap, but I don't like negative. I don't like negative rap. I like positive rap.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
You know, and there's a lot of, you know, if you guys out there listen to rap, man, listen to something positive. Don't listen to that. The other garbage that's gonna put you away for half your life, and then you're gonna regret it later.
That's right.
And and it's gonna lead you to somewhere that you don't want to be.
It's definitely a connection, like Blake said. Like what you listen to is how you feel. If you're depressed, everybody listens to sorrow songs.
Yeah.
And
so, just basically adding fuel to that fire.
I wasn't a person that listened to anything else other than rap, but I love worship music.
Yeah.
I love listening to worship music and
That's it, man.
and just praising God and just these people lifting you up. No matter what you're going through, you can have a relationship with God. It's awesome.
That's right, man.
It's so good.
At the same time, when you're listening to worship music, you're putting your trust into something else out there instead of a bag of weed or a bottle of
wild turkey, man.
Of wild turkey or whatever,
Or in a car, or in women.
Yeah,
all that.
All those things, man. There's just gonna, eventually disappear.
100%.
And what happens is, man, just you gotta remember, man, we're just passing through this life right now.
Yeah.
It's when this life ends, where we're gonna go, where we're gonna spend after it.
Eternity, man. It's crazy.
Where is the big question.
100%.
It's heaven or hell.
That's exactly right.
That's crazy. I think I had a lot of arguments with people about Christianity prior to salvation, just for the sake of hearsay.
Yeah.
And probably got presented a couple of times with the gospel.
Yeah.
Or part of the gospel. But I never understood it until I seen the people in church.
Yeah.
And people actually change. Like my mate Dan. It was like the transformation from the weekend before to the weekend at Sunday. I'm like, man, this guy's a totally different guy.
You're sitting there, you're scratching your head going, man, where's my homeboy? What happened to him?
100%. And that was the same. That was the same with me. Was when I gave my life to Christ, I became somebody different.
Yeah.
And I remember what I mentioned before was that I was trying to be somebody I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
And I was trying to be something else. I was always trying to be somebody different and try to be that guy.
And now, what's amazing is that you're confident in who you are.
100%.
And what God has, done in your life.
I'm absolutely a different person.
Yeah.
I have people that talk to me and they're like, man, I don't know the other you anymore.
Yeah.
I like this you, even my family, my friends. It's like they like me going to church.
Yeah.
They challenge me all the time. It's crazy. It's so cool.
Do you tend to get do you tend to get the feeling where you tell your story so much and you're in your thoughts, right? Like, man, was that me?
100%. It was definitely the case. Like I share, I was talking to Vu the other night on the phone. I'm like, man, I was living a lie. I was living a big lie.
Yeah.
Straight.
And to be able to surrender that person to God
brings out the best of you, doesn't it? It brings out, just a transformation there, man. You can't explain this, man, except for God.
Got to experience it.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever put on a pair of shoes and been like, oh, these are my shoes?
Yeah.
These are guaranteed my shoes?
You gave me a pair, bro.
Yeah. I can walk into a store and put on, 100 pair of shoes, but when you put on those right pair of shoes, you know they're yours.
Yeah.
And you take them home with you. When I gave my life to Christ, it was like, I know this is me. Yeah. This is who I was supposed to be. This is what people talked about, living the good life.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that before.
Yeah.
And when I found it in Christ and I had genuine people, like when I met Blake, and I heard people pray for me the first time, I was like, man, this is like I'm thirsty for this. I want more. How do I and so I became a revival junkie.
Yeah.
I would visit all our fellowship churches and go to as many, preaching of the word as possible, just to hang out and just to be in the presence of God.
Be around, godly people, good influences in your life, positive influence.
And those are the things that solidify us in the faith, because we need others around us. We can't be lone strangers in the faith because we go whack.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And continue to listen to online garbage with websites and all these things. We need people of the same mind, the same spirit, of the same heart, and have our best interests at heart. Yeah. That's what God will bless.
That's right, man.
Yeah, you definitely have to put off some friends. Yeah,
Oh,
you definitely have to let go of some habits.
When you came to Christ, how was the difficulty as far as cutting off the people that were influencing you in a bad way is concerned?
Well, the hard part was my family, I guess, in the instance, because we grew up in that culture, right? We grew up in that way. And so the hardness of it, I learned really quickly. Like my friends, as I said to you before, I didn't have many friends or great friends anyway, and they were only related to drugs.
Did your family think you were whacked?
100%. They were my family.
Brainwashed.
My family thought it was just a fad.
Yeah.
That Jacson chops and changes everything all the time, and so this will be 6 weeks, and you'll be back to partying. And
Another phase.
Yeah, it was exactly that, and it wasn't until probably 2-3 years that they realized that I'm not budging.
Yeah.
And yeah, they miss it. It was hard. Like things came up immediately. My cousin's 21st birthday. I knew they were going to have, it was going to be parties and strippers and stuff like that. So I just avoided it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the friends that I did have, they fell off the wayside a little bit early. I probably ruined a lot of friendships pre-giving my life to Christ and getting saved.
Yeah.
But yeah, saying no to the invites to clubs and pubs was probably the best thing I ever did.
Oh, for sure.
How easy was it just to...
It was easy because I think I was filled with the power of God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? God changed me from the inside out. It wasn't just like an external, thing that I did.
No turning back, right?
No turning back. I didn't know any, and as I said before, I was a full-on person. I either do this or I do that.
hard
And when I found God, it was like, see you later.
Yeah.
I found this new adrenaline that I'm just going to keep running for.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it was difficult. I made hard choices with some friends.
Yeah.
I had a friend ring me up for like a reunion after like 10 years of not seeing anybody.
Yeah.
And was like, oh, we should catch up at a thing. And they're like, oh, let's go to a pub. And I'm like, man, I can't come. I said, if you want to go get coffee or something to go out for dinner,
What,
let's
coffee?
do that. Oh, no, just because you're a churchy doesn't mean you can't come to a pub. And I said, yeah, but I know myself.
Yeah.
If I go near a club or a pub,
yeah,
I was struggle.
So yeah, being a Christian, obviously, you got some wisdom about you as well, because all right, if I go there, I'm just going to be a wreck again. So you avoid them kind of places.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to return back to your vomit, and you want to be at a position where you can influence them and not have them influence you.
Yeah.
And if you tend to feel that pressure, like me personally, just gotta cut it off.
Yeah.
Cut it off like a bad habit.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough thing to push off, and just boundaries. I think the key part is knowing yourself,
Yeah.
knowing your limits, man. Because my rap name's No Limit,
No limit.
and I didn't have a filter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if I went with my friends, it'd just be that little twist of compromise would have sent me down the wrong track.
Yeah.
And I stayed true.
Yeah. The Bible, it says, what fellowship has light with darkness?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Just like oil with water. It won't mix.
Yeah.
100%.
That's right.
You can't serve God and mammon.
Yeah.
You can't be on that side of the fence and on this side of the fence at the
That's
same
right.
time.
Never works out. Never works out, man.
Yeah, I'm not, and I was never a believer of I'll just have one drink either.
No.
It was never that case.
Yeah.
No.
And so, I just kept going. I would run. I think people thought that I would rock it off like I was,
Yeah.
and then disappear into the atmosphere and just go back to being the person that I was before, but it wasn't so.
Yeah.
And I never stopped. The more people told me that I couldn't stay clean,
The more you wanted.
oh man,
Prove them wrong.
the drive.
The motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
You know what I
That's
mean?
motivation there. That's just.
That would egg me on.
Yeah.
Even to this day, that's like, it can't be done. I'm going to do it. And
That's a good compliment, actually.
Yeah.
Take it as a compliment.
100%.
Yeah.
It was such a good change, and having people like Blake that were like-minded or we had things in common, like the music, and we tried to spend time, and we spent time together. I think I watched the last session you had with Johnny on it, and he talked about after his brother's situation, that he had friends in church to go to that kept him kept him
Definitely
on the
man.
right line.
You need that network, Even me as well, for a while. I couldn't break my habits. I couldn't, get out of that revolving door, was because I never changed my network of people.
Mm-hmm.
After I got saved, I instantly, I threw away my SIM card, threw away my phone. I changed the network of people. That's what I attribute to me being clean for how many years now? 4 years now, not going back to prison.
Now that you mention that, that's a revelation to whoever's listening right now. Changing your SIM card does wonders. So, for example, for ex drug addicts, they've got that contact, they got that contact or two where they can just easily go to and get their have their sesh and get their fix.
It's a good point, because even the Facebook ads, and now that I've turned my life around, I was able to help others turn their life around and influence people, and show them that they could have a life outside of that, and just to show it to them and seeing them succeed from that. But if they kept their Facebook friends, they kept their phone number, or they kept their phone, or that
old fires,
or that friend got in contact with them, it's okay. It's okay when you're doing well.
Yeah, for sure.
But as soon as you were doing bad, oh man.
Yeah.
Temptation was too easy.
That's right.
That Facebook friend popped up at that moment that you were feeling tempted, and you're gone.
Straight up.
You know what I mean? And so very much so, I ditched my phone. I had it for a little while. I was, had a kind of a backdoor escape plan if this Christianity thing didn't work out.
That's right. Give the devil an inch, you get a mile.
You know what I mean? As soon as I chucked that phone and replaced it with a Bible, I was off, man. I was so deep in it. I read so many chapters of the same book because I just wanted to soak it up and understand it for myself. Yeah. Because I left school early, obviously, and I didn't have the knowledge of going all the way through high school and learning things, and I wasn't a reader.
So what a wonder that what God can do to restore from you, dropping out and getting into drugs and these relationships and all that, and just restoring your years. Just restoring your life,
your mind,
restoring your value.
It was supernatural.
Yeah.
It was a supernatural experience. I wouldn't even have been able to explain it back then, but I know it now.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to attain when you surrender things to God and just leave them in His hands.
Straight up.
Yeah. Saying that, man, we're gonna end this sesh, man.
Yeah.
Anything you like to say to anyone out there listening?
I think it's just be real to yourself.
Watching.
Be real to yourself and examine who you are and who you want to be in life. And, everything that you're doing right now, are those same people are going to be around when you go through hard times? And if not, change the people that you're with.
Yeah.
An old guy on the train said, if you don't change the people that you hang out with, you're never going to change your outcomes. And so very much so when I gave my life to Christ and I changed my life, I changed the people and I surrendered them. And I trusted God with all my circumstances. And if you do the same, you will succeed in the kingdom of God. It's not about the church people as a whole, but everybody's going through something. It's about you and God. Make decisions and stay away from the things that are going to lead you into a ditch.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for having me on, boys. It's been great.
Thanks so much, Jacson, man. This is Vu Fam. This is Black Moose. The Moose Vu Sesh, giving you hope in a different dose, man. I gotta get used to that.
Roar! Ow!
I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet.